समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
I am determined to lead my country with my deep conviction to comprehensive democracy.
Nepal is roaring and rumbling in revolt. A revolt that has been led by its Gen Z. Like everywhere else, it is the young who always lead the movement for change. But the scenes out of Nepal in the last few hours have been nothing short of extraordinarily dramatic. Nepal is on edge, the airport is closed, as thousands and thousands of young people have taken to the streets, compelling the Oli government to step down. The Prime Minister of Nepal, or the erstwhile Prime Minister of Nepal, has stepped down. But his home, as well as the President's house and the Parliament building, have been set ablaze by angry people who say that it is a misclassification of their protests to say that it was about the ban on social media. That ban did not even last a day. A new policy that demanded pre-registration of anyone on social media, which young people said was actually about the government trying to shut them down. But the eruption we have seen today points to a deep sort of unsettled energy, and it's not clear what might happen next. To understand the view from India, but also the view from Nepal, let me introduce our distinguished panel of experts on the program today. Padma Rao Sundarji is with us, a veteran journalist. It's always good to see you, who's been pounding the pavement, as it were, for decades on the foreign policy beat. Veteran diplomat, one of India's finest strategic minds, Ambassador Rakesh Sood is with us. Good to see you, sir. And for a perspective from Nepal, not perfect, but we couldn't actually connect right now to anybody on the ground in Nepal, is a voice from Nepal whose life is here, at least for the moment, in India. Dr. Ashwina Basnet is with us. She's from Nepal, but she works on women's rights here in India. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. I think since this is about Nepal, let me get Ashwina first, and then we'll come to how we're looking at it, maybe from Delhi, what our concerns are, what our analysis is. Ashwina, what is this about? What is actually happening? When it was first reported, it was reported as young people, Gen Z, coming out on the streets because they didn't like the new policy on social media use. You are among those who actually use social media, Instagram, to message me and say this is not about social media, it's about corruption. Tell me what's actually going on here.
It had been going on since some time. Like I can say, if you've been reading news about Nepal, I'll always say that you've always heard about unstable politics. Like there's always an instability when it comes to politics. So that was there. Then slowly in last few months or since last year, you can see that social media, like the TikTok had also been banned and a lot of things were happening. But recently what exactly happened was a lot of politicians kids lifestyle started being exposed in social media, where you could see the luxurious life that they were leading. So started questioning, everyone started questioning, where is the money coming from? So when that thing started happening and people, the youth started questioning as to that it's the people's tax, right, that the government earns money from, but how are they able to afford all of those things? So that's when it started. And slowly when these things were coming up, the government start made this entire announcement that all the social media apps which has not been registered in Nepal will be banned. So it was like kind of like they were trying to shut the youth's voices. That's when this erupted, where the youth started taking the lead that no, this needs to change. Like they started questioning. So when all the things started being banned, then everyone came on street. So it was a peaceful protest which was decided. It started off also in a very peaceful way, but all of a sudden there was started the kids started being like and beaten up by the police, and a lot of things started escalating yesterday. So that is what the entire thing was. It was tentatively, I could say, that they were trying to control people from like freedom of speech and expression. So that is what was happening
Yeah,
in this.
I get the genesis of it, but briefly, before I open it up, why are buildings being burned? We have seen today the president's house, the parliament, the former prime minister's house. You say it started peacefully and there was a clampdown of the state and there was disproportionate force. What are you hearing from your friends who are out on the streets right now?
See, the thing is, like 20 people died, 20 kids died. One of them was 12-year-old, another was 14-year-old kid, right? So people in school uniform, when you look at children who were on street protesting, it could have been a peaceful protest. Then a lot of people went missing. Like yesterday when the kids died, and then there was this entire news that the cabinet had sat down for meetings after 5 p.m. They could have resigned it then also. But I think it was the ego of the government which led to their own downfall. They could have spoken something or the other yesterday, but still they didn't step down. And still there was this entire thing, the social media angle thing as well, that when the KP Oli said that okay, we will still ban the social media even at night, they said. And why some ministers kept saying, why will the prime minister step down? So this started escalating yesterday also. So it was the action of yesterday. If the government would have said something, I think it would have been controlled, but they didn't. They let the things be the way it was, which led to all the ministers' houses being burned today. So that is action of what the youth were demanding. They didn't listen to the youth. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you people are angry. So I think it was entirely the same. And a lot of kids died. If you have seen the videos, it's really tragic to see how could they do that.
Yeah.
So that led to the outburst of the citizen.
Thank you for sharing that, and it's very important for us to get a perspective from Nepal, and therefore I'm grateful for your perspective, Ambassador Sood. What is the view from Delhi? I mean, this is in some ways, some of it, though no country is identical. We've seen this playbook, right? We've seen it in Sri Lanka. We've seen it in Bangladesh. Every country has its own unique context. Nepal has, in particular seen sort of multiple governments come and go. But you heard Ashwina say this is about much more than political instability. Also, sir, could you unmute yourself before you respond?
Well, I think that the extent of the unrest has taken everybody by surprise, and that includes India as well as the people in Nepal. I don't think that the Nepal government anticipated this kind of meltdown. And what we are seeing is a complete meltdown. Um, you're right, the model is pretty similar. We saw this happen under similar kind of circumstances where there was mass civic action in, let us say, in Colombo in the Aragalaya movement. That happened in 2022 July. It also almost happened in Pakistan when there were popular unrest in 2023 when Imran Khan was arrested. But then the army institutions were attacked, which was a very rare thing for Pakistan. But then the army stepped in and reasserted itself. In 2024, we saw what happened, the monsoon revolution in Bangladesh, and we are still uh, trying to figure out the fallout of that, because we don't know what the elections, although they've been announced, whether they will take place or not. And frankly, I do not know what is going to happen in Nepal, and I don't think anybody in Nepal knows that either, because people want the constitution to be changed. They are unhappy with the constitution. What the changes in the constitution are supposed to be, we do not know. So therefore, there is going to be a very strong period of turmoil. Right now, for reasons of security, we've obviously sealed our borders, and but there is enormous amount of insecurity. Now there are mobs going around in different parts of Kathmandu. At least I've heard, I've spoken to people, and there are mobs going around burning houses. And these are not ministers or their private homes or anything like that. These are shop owners or businessmen, or they are burning offices in the suburbs of Kathmandu. So this kind of a thing, then at that stage, now there is no government. There is only a caretaker government, because we know that Prime Minister Oli has resigned. His resignation has been accepted by the president, but obviously, in the absence of any alternatives, he's been asked to continue as an interim prime minister. For a long time, the mayor of Kathmandu, who fancies himself as a young leader, Balen Shah, he kept quiet for more than 24 hours, and now suddenly he has come out in the last couple of hours urging restraint on Gen Z. I frankly do not know whether his appeals are going to have any impact, because at the moment, Gen Z does not seem to have any central organizing people around whom it has coalesced. So there are amorphous groups. It has also spread into 7, 8 other cities in Nepal. And it is not as if this is a coordinated movement, at least not so far. And it's a pretty bleak prospect for the time being.
Yeah. And as you've said, India has sealed borders. We have seen in the past a certain amount of, Padma, in other contexts, not right now. Also, inflammable situations tend to create anti-India sentiments. We've seen this in the past. Every time we've seen internal turmoil in Nepal. So we've got to proceed as a country with caution and care here. How are you seeing the situation? I think Ambassador Sood makes an excellent point that nobody's in control. Even this rapper turned politician, Balen, he's appealing for peace, but is anybody listening to anybody? And this is what happens often with mass protests, which are not centralized. At the end of it, you don't know who's in charge. What's your take, Padma?
Well, just going back to what Ambassador Sood pointed out, the differences or the similarities with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. There are certain similarities, but there are also certain differences. I mean, Nepal became a republic in 2008. New constitution, which Ambassador Sood referred to, people are not satisfied with, was adopted in 2015. But we're now in 2025, and power has been held repeatedly by the same 3 parties and men. This just resigned Prime Minister Oli, former PM, erstwhile Maoist leader Prachanda, Sher Bahadur Deuba of the Congress. That's 14 governments or something like that in 17 years. That's a lot of unchanging change, And whenever that happens, something similar happened in Bangladesh with Sheikh Hasina, and also with the Rajapaksa regime in Sri Lanka, who were in power for the major part of the post-war years. So I think whenever that happens, dissatisfaction tends to set in. And also authoritarian rule tends to set in. That's what happened in all 3 countries. But while the governments in Sri Lanka, government could cite security, because they said 30 years of civil war, and then after that the Easter attacks as a reason for heightened surveillance or for being more draconian. Nepal cannot use that as an excuse, really, other than in the years immediately after the Palace massacre in 2001. So, and there are other similarities also. There's tourism being the mainstay revenue earner in both the countries. And in Nepal's case, of course, poverty leading to a lot of Nepalis going abroad to seek work, which made the social media all that much more important, because it was being used by the tourism industry also, and also to for money, to be repatriated to sent back to Nepal. But was it the ban on the social media alone? I agree with Ashwina. I don't think so. I think the social media ban was not the only reason. This was a lot of pent up rage and a pent up, and certainly the social media led to greater awareness and highlighted issues which would have otherwise remained subverted, like corruption and nepotism, much like in Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Dare I say, even here, globalization and social media serve to increase the focus. And there were, as you said, these repeated stories of nepo kids or nepo babies, children of the privileged political class getting certain favors and certain, privileged treatment. Now, this was on the rise. Dissatisfaction was on the rise. And then, of course, there's the unemployment rate, which has gone up to, I think, more than 11% now. And like in Sri Lanka, not much progress has been made on repeated election promises, in Sri Lanka's case, that they'll hold provincial elections, and in Nepal's case, tackling corruption, for instance. I mean, which government has not spoken of tackling corruption, and yet the Nepo babies and the Nepo kids continue? Barkha?
Yeah. Let me bring in Ashwina to add on to what you've just said to also see whether she shares your perspective. Dr. Ashwina, one of the points that you made is what started off as being a revolt against corruption and government control became or took this violent turn after young people, some in school uniform, were killed in disproportionate use of force by the Nepal state. But do you agree or share Ambassador Sood's concerns that now it may have become a free-for-all? Is there any young icon that young people would listen to? Balin, I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. Is it Balin or Balin?
Balin.
Balin. So Balin, who is this mayor, rapper turned politician, all eyes on him. He's appealed for peace. We have his images on screen. Is he the icon? Is he the pivot? Is there any individual? Also, we saw these images of the Communist Party hammer and sickle being taken down. Is this to say, communism has done its time? Or is this about status quo? Is this a revolt against status quo?
No, it's just that the people wanted change. Like ma'am also rightly said that the country, there's like people are leaving the country, the youth are leaving the country, right? Like you want change, you want to be in your own country, you want to do something in the country, but you're not able to do it because there's always control over something or the other. Right. So and like it said that the government, it's the same government who's been coming up and down, up and down. So it's just the power of 2 3 people. So it's just that the people wanted change where they can do something better for the country. When you say Nepal is a small country where you wanted peace, you wanted to see the country growing. We've not seen that happening in so many years. So it's all people boiling down. So I mean, a lot of my friends who are on street right now, so many of them had blended in this entire revolution also. So I mean, I think the only concept why people wanted to be in this protest, want today to be there, is because they want to see the country growing and have a bright future, and so that there's some change. And like ma'am said, like when you're talking about Balin, I guess he's one of the icon right now who came when he came in as individual candidate, and he did promise something. So when you become a politician, I think you can't do everything like you say, because there are certain constraints. But in Kathmandu city as a whole, he has been able to bring some change. And he's also a youth icon because all his songs, he's a rapper as well. So if you listen to his songs, also the way of politics or the issue of the country that he speaks in his song also say, and those songs are getting popular. And those are the songs that the Gen Z or the youth that you're saying are using it.
But do you believe that people on the street would listen to him? And also, if I can ask you before I go to Ambassador Sood, at this moment, what is the you're from Nepal, you live and work in India. Is this something from India that you'd expect, or would you say this is nobody's business but our own? Let us handle this on our own.
I think right now you need to let Nepal do things on their own, because right now what is happening in today and tomorrow, I think other countries also needs to wait and see, because for the first time the youths and the countries, the youth, they are speaking up, right? So if their version is also rightly heard, then I think something can come out. If you have to say it, I might be wrong, it's just my opinion, but if I mean, I'm sure intervention is also needed so that it does not escalate a lot. But I think Nepalese peoples, because here when you're talking about India or China or any other country, you're only hearing the government's voices. So this is for after a very long time that the people are speaking.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want that to be heard.
So I think that last line, Ambassador Sood, let Nepal sort this out on its own. I want to couple that with a couple of voices against Oli, the now ousted prime minister that we heard on the streets. Somebody called him some of the protesters called him an American stooge. The perception, however, is that he's actually close to China. Should India just be entirely sitting this one out? We've seen in the past, for example, Hasina gets ousted. She comes to India. We have seen Oli trying to escape in a chopper. In fact, a line of politicians at the Kathmandu airport trying to get away in choppers. We have no idea where they're going. Does India keep a one arm's length from what's happening in Nepal? What would you say?
Well, first of all, I think the Tribhuvan International Airport has been shut down
Correct.
because they can't ensure the security. So there are no flights taking off, no flights landing. It's been completely cut off. Secondly, when it comes to new leaders, we saw another chap who came to limelight was Ravi Lamichhane. He had no political background. Suddenly, just before the elections, he was a very popular TV anchor and had his own program. And then he used that presence to begin his political career. People loved it. Particularly the Nepali diaspora supported him in large measure. And he came out with a fairly strong presence, was deputy prime minister, and then got involved with the cooperative scandal as currently in jail. So, as Ashwina said, it's one thing to mobilize the masses with slogans and things like that, and quite another thing when you get into governance. And that is the dilemma. So, while there has been a lot of instability in the sense of frequent changes, like 14, 15 prime ministers since 2008 when Nepal became a republic, and 9 governments since 2015 after it adopted a new constitution. So no government has really lasted, forget a full term, not even a half term. But then while this in one sense reflects instability, in another sense, as was pointed out by Padma, it also reflects stability, because it's been the same
Churn or revolving door.
musical chairs kind of thing between Oli and Deoba and Prachand and so on. And that's about it. So which is where, so it is an instability. Obviously doesn't bode well for the economic growth, because the economic growth has faltered between 3%, 1%, etc., etc. But partly it is also to do with the absolutely polarizing politics that Oli has practiced within the country. And over time, he has tried to, present India. In fact, if you recall, he was supposed to come on a visit on the 16th, his long-awaited visit, because he had been waiting to get an invitation from Prime Minister Modi from the time that he became Prime Minister more than a year ago. But then he didn't, while he was invited, no dates were finalized. And it's only recently, when I think the Foreign Secretary had gone to Kathmandu just about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that finally we heard that the dates were supposed to be 16th, 17th of September. Now, obviously, he's destined to finish his term, or has finished his term, without having had a visit to Delhi, which is one of the rare things for a Nepal.
And do you believe that Delhi needs to keep an arm's length from what's happening?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think. Well, you can't. There is no question of, because nobody really knows who you have to talk to. You just have to make sure that the spillover does not impact. See, there are a lot of Indian offices. I remember during the years that I was there, and there was at one point in time there were disturbances because of some film, some Indian movie, which had some comment which the Nepalese got upset about. And the problem led to protests. But then in the protests, there were all kinds of groups that got together. Somebody wanted to burn the State Bank of India building, somebody wanted to burn the Indian Airlines office, somebody wanted to burn the Stanchart
Yeah.
Bank office. So, in something like that, there is absolutely no control.
Yeah. I want to bring in Padma at this point. Padma, I want to pick up a comment from one of our regular viewers, and that is sort of Vishesh saying there are similarities between the political parties in Pakistan and Nepal. It's the same revolving door of bad options with rising unemployment. The difference, of course, is in Pakistan, it's the army that wields the power. It's less clear how the Nepal army is going to respond. Last scene, they were helping politicians escape from mobs. I also want to show you the scenes from the airport. If we could just play the video up on screen. That's what I was talking about. These are the choppers lined up, politicians trying to escape. Whether they'll manage or not, we don't know right now. Padma, go ahead. I think what Ambassador Sood is saying is you have no option in Delhi but to stay away, not just because it's for the people of Nepal to sort this out, but also because who is leading this movement? You had a Muhammad Yunus type face on the Bangladesh sort of alter narrative. Here it's not clear who that person is, what that entity is.
Yeah, it's interesting. You took the words right out of my mouth. There are 2 points I'd like to make. One is to what Ambassador Sood said earlier. He was mentioning that the airport has been closed, and you are pointing indeed to the aircraft. The pictures that you just showed. Now, flights may have been cut off, but I'm wondering whether what kind of a role the army will play in this case, because as you saw what happened in Sri Lanka in 2022, it was ultimately the army that helped politicians whisk them away to safer places when things were getting out of hand in Colombo. So I'm wondering whether we have also had news. I'm not sure whether that address has already taken place, that the army chief of Nepal is going to be addressing Nepal, his country. Now, of course, this is a very different situation from Pakistan, where army is quasi the ruling faction of Pakistan, and has always been. Nepal has not seen that much. So I'm wondering what sort of a role the army will play. And also, that brings me to my second point, which also ties in nicely with what all of you have mentioned. What is India's role going to be in this? Now, we saw, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa going to Singapore, and we saw Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa being taken to an army camp in the north, a naval camp, as in refuge. So I'm wondering where the escaping politicians from Nepal will land up. And I doubt very much, as Ambassador Sood says, it'll be India, and there are several reasons for that. We all know that Prime Minister Oli has nurtured a very close relationship to China. He's part of Nepal became part of the BRI under during his time. And also, it has sorted out a debt, eased its debt burden of nearly $41 million with the help of the Chinese. But let's not forget that there's another very large player in this region, and that's the United States of America. There's this Millennium Challenge Nepal Compact, which was brought back by the Donald Trump administration, and they are planning to pump in about $500 million in aid. So there's a lot of speculation on X that even the United States might, even though the actual protesters on the ground in Nepal have made it clear that they have no political backing from anyone, and even though some opposition leaders like Prachanda's party have jumped in to express solidarity with the protesters, they themselves have made it clear they have no political leanings. But some are seeing, that there might be the foreign hand, the US hand behind this, that the US is trying to put in place. Don't forget, there's been a pro-monarchy movement, very small, but it has been rising in Nepal. Now, what is India going to do? I agree with Ambassador Sood. I think this China-India rapprochement that we are seeing of late, that also will play a role. I don't think India is going to wield its traditional line of Hindu, commonality with Nepal, and I think it's going to stay out of the situation, at least overtly as never before, because right now India would be interested in protecting its own interests, and the tightrope between that relationship between the United States and China, with which, as I said, it is seeing a kind of a rapprochement in for
So,
about a year
so,
now. Yeah.
so by the way, it's interesting that you bring up the America hand, because while we have all perceived Oli to be close to China, the effigy that you see on your screen being burnt by protesters is Oli being called an American stooge. So this is some very
Yeah.
interesting sort of set of, I don't know, geopolitical contradictions. Guess what else is new? That we seem to permanently live in that age right now. Before I give Ambassador Sood the last word, Ashwina, I want to bring you in. One, there are some comments, oh, people want the monarchy back. Is that really the case? Two, they want to change in the constitution. Three, how are you going to ensure that this revolving door politics ends? I mean, all of this, this mass protest, it cannot amount to more of the same.
Yeah, about this monarch thing, I don't think so. I'm not the right person to speak on
Yeah,
this, because
yeah.
a lot of political parties have been doing whatever they wanted. But right now, looking at yesterday's and today's situation, I can say that everything might change after this, because this what was happening in the past and what has happened in last 2 days is totally different in Nepal than what we have experienced in all over time. Like, we people have always said some things have happened and they've spoken in or for it. The fights have been, or the protests have been for it. But this time it's totally different thing, and it's the newer voices that have come in. So,
But
which
are
is
you but are you concerned? I'm so sorry, because we're just getting
yeah,
news that the former prime minister house has been burnt, and his wife may
yeah,
have been burnt alive. Now, I
yeah,
am asking you this because is the movement in danger of
yeah,
slipping out of the hands of the original protesters? And this happens
yeah,
to a lot of well-intentioned protests. This is former Prime Minister Jhalanath Khanal's house,
yes.
and his wife Ravi Lakshmi burnt alive. These are the reports we're getting.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Till today afternoon, after the Prime Minister resigned, I think it has definitely gone bit out of hand. I can see that it has gone out of hand. And every protest I've seen this happening. And back in 2006, also, when the monarch had the king after his last speech, I still remember after he left, similar incidents had happened where things went overboard. And today also, I can see similar things happening, where I can see that people have gone overboard. Like, everyone's been saying that now what we demanded has been done. Now, let's start talking about the brighter side of it. I hope it stops today itself. Like, I'm genuinely hoping, like, whatever has happened till today, everything, everyone, whoever wanted what has happened. So from tomorrow, I hope we have a good new start, and we'll start looking at the brighter future for Nepal. So that's something that I'm hoping for. So that's all I think I can say. Like, maybe it looks bleak at this
Yeah.
point of time. And when you're also saying that when you're talking about India's role, or in this, like, in future, I'm sure India will also somewhere intervene, because when the new things comes up, it's a neighboring country, so their perspective will also be taken into consideration whenever that thing will happen. So, I mean, I think right now what is happening currently, it is what it is. But in future, definitely, like Sir had said and Ma'am had also said, as to when can India like, I mean, start speaking also. When the new government comes in, I'm sure the opinion would be needed from both the
But
neighboring countries also.
Ashwina, you have spoken in an absolutely reasoned and reasonable way, but the images are really worrying. This is
Yeah,
the
it's
National
very
Daily.
worrying.
This is Kantipur office that is ablaze on
Yeah.
our screen, well-known media office. So it is a very worrying situation. And Ambassador Sood, I'll give you the last word. I think what Ashwina is saying is, it's yes, it is our business, but if things continue in this sort of disarray, somebody is going to have to step in and hold the center. This is now a law and order. It's going to fast become a law and order issue. And as you said, India has also sealed our borders. I want you to give a sense of what might happen next. What's the first order of priority? What might be happening in the back channels, even if India doesn't speak officially or overtly?
Well, I the Kantipur news had come to me
Yeah,
a couple of hours ago because their website went off.
yeah.
So their website is off, and when I spoke to somebody, they said, "Well, the building has been set on fire." Now, this is precisely another example of the kind of sad thing about Jhalanath Khanal's wife, if that is true.
Yeah.
But the protesters going after Oli's private home or President Paudil's private home or now former Prime Minister Jhalanath Khanal's home, and this is lawlessness.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And at some point, the president, as the supreme commander, will have to call in the army. That's about the
Yeah.
only option left for him. And then the army will be asked to restore law and order. And then we will see what the form of governance that comes up. Because if the constitution has to change, then the constitution only got, it is only in 2008 that constitutional drafting began. And the constitution took 7 years to complete. And it was adopted in 2015. And so, if we have to redo the constitution, then so be it. Then, the people of Nepal will have to elect a new constituent assembly. Maybe the last elections were held in 2022. The normal general elections are due in 2027. You can hold them in 2025. Somebody has to take responsibility for those elections. However, the Supreme Court has been politicized, the Election Commission has been politicized, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Commission on Investigating Abuse of Authority has been politicized. So the institutions have been tarnished. So who is going to take the responsibility for conducting the election? So you'll have to get perhaps a former Chief Justice or somebody like that who has a clean record
Yeah.
to head an interim government. And within a finite time frame, sit down with civilian leadership, and opinion makers, political leaders, business leaders, community leaders, etc. And mind you, Nepal, despite being a small country, given its geographical terrain, is ethnically a very diverse country. It's a very diverse country because you have the hill tribes, you have the Pahadis, you have the Bahun Chetri groups in urban centers like Kathmandu and Pokhara. You have the Muslim and the Tharu community, you have the Janjatis, and all the Janjatis are separated in a sense that they are in different valleys. So it's ethnically a very diverse country. So you will have to get different people on board, because now we've in 2015 constitution also introduced for the first time in Nepal's history the notion of federalism. So you've got 7 provinces in response to the calls for federalism. So how do you bring that together to be able to find consensus is going to be a challenge, and it's going to be a long haul.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, what may have started as a voice for change, led by people like Ashwina and her friends, has now slipped into lawlessness where we do not know who's in control, who's in charge. And if, as Nepal's army is called in, this is really shades of deja vu that we've seen unfolding in other parts of our India's immediate neighborhood. Bangladesh comes to mind. I mean, so many parallels that you can draw. Again, not trying to take away the uniqueness of every country and its own context. Ashwina, Padma, were you trying to say something? I was going to close.
Very
You have a
quickly.
sentence? Yeah.
Very quickly. I just find that it's the greatest irony that political instability, it makes the very economic instability that these protesters or any protesters in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka that they were seeking at the stage when it slides into anarchy and lawlessness. I mean, the Prime Minister of President Ranil Wickremesinghe's house too was set on fire at that time, and his entire library destroyed. It's an irony. It's a cruel irony that very economic stability that protesters seek becomes evasive when, as Ambassador Sood says, this will now go into a prolonged period of political instability.
And Ashwina, quickly, if the army is called out, if it hasn't already been, because I was seeing videos of the Nepal army escorting some people out to safety through the mob, what is it that you as a young person from Nepal would expect them to do at this point?
No, that I can't say what they'll do. Right now, to take things under control, they've come out, and the president has also already resigned. So I'm sure it's just the army in chief. They were about to say something. So at this point of time, I think everything looks bleak, like I said earlier, and there has to be right leaders coming in. So I hope something that the army will also come up with, that who is going to take the decision or what's going to happen. I hope that comes out pretty much soon. Like, I think we're all
Okay.
just peace.
Well, your hope is for a new Nepal. At the moment, as Ambassador Sood said, the first order of business is going to be to get a semblance of law and order, public
Yeah.
safety back on the streets, and only then can the conversation about change take place at all. This is a difficult moment. I wish your people, your friends, your family safety in Nepal, and thank you for your insights, Ambassador Sood, Padma, and to you, Ashwina, for an invaluable perspective that I think we sitting in Delhi would simply not necessarily be able to understand otherwise. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.